Well, I promised you some wonderful guests, and oh boy, am I going to deliver for you. I have Leon Burke, Artistic Director and Conductor of the University City Symphony Orchestra, and he's back here in the studio again. Good morning, Leon.
Good morning, Kathy.
I never have to worry about the level on your mic. You are always bang right there. As you can tell, he's also a singer that conducts and plays piano and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
And then he also has with him his two guest artists, and I am so thrilled to welcome both Manuel and Adolfo Ramos, who are with the symphony at St. Louis Symphony, and Manuel is a violinist, and Adolfo a cellist, and they're going to be playing the Brahms Double Concerto with you, Leon. Good morning, Manuel.
Good morning. It's so nice to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you here. And Adolfo, great to have you here, too.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I can't wait to talk about what you guys are all doing together. That Brahms Double. What a tour de force. It really is.
It's quite a wonderful, wonderful piece. It's always a pleasure to play this piece with whoever. I played it in the past at least a couple of times with my wife when I was still in St. Louis. And then with my brother, we already did it once a couple of months ago and with the Jalapa Symphony in Mexico. So now we are doing it here, and next week we are going to do it with the National Symphony in Mexico.
In
Mexico City National Symphony.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Now, where's the National Symphony in Mexico located? What city?
It's in Mexico City.
In Mexico City.
Yeah.
Man, that's going to be so neat. When you first performed it together, your first time, what was your feeling afterwards? You felt, were there things that you sort of discovered within yourselves as that process went through with this particular piece? It's such a tour de force.
This is so special. We belong in a large family in Mexico, and I'm one of the oldest, and he is the teeny one.
The baby.
So playing with
Bambino.
my teeny brother is always a pleasure. It's so personal, and it's great.
Yeah.
I myself, I have been retired from the St. Louis Symphony. This is my 6th year.
Wow.
I'm concertmaster of one of the orchestras in Mexico, belongs to the university. It's a major orchestra, and he's actually principal cello in one of the other orchestras, the Mexico City Philharmonic.
That's great.
So
that's just great.
So it's always a pleasure playing with him.
So now, what brought you back to St. Louis area?
Well, for me, it was this invitation from Mr. Burke. Yes, I'm so grateful for that, and one of those dreams that you have as a teenager. When you listen to recordings, and at that time it was like CDs or things like that, and it's one of these things that you listen to a piece, I hope I can play it one day,
Yeah.
And especially this piece is one of those things that I wish I can play it someday, and I wish I could play it with my brother. If I ever made it in life with this piece, my whole dream about it was playing it with him, and it just came true last June, and now that I'm here in St. Louis, I lived here for 2 years back in the 80s, when Casa was still around.
Oh, yes.
I did two years of college there, and it's coming back to my alma mater to play this wonderful piece with this wonderful brother and violinist.
And with a terrific symphony, too.
And a great conductor that invited me to do it. It's a dream come true.
I think
really.
That is fabulous. Well, what a treat for our audiences here, and to welcome you back home, and to just celebrate that tie. You see, it was really, Leon had a crystal ball sitting on his desk when he was programming, and he said, the Ramos brothers. Isn't that right, Leon?
Well, it was close. As a matter of fact, originally planned, I wanted Manuel to come back and play a piece that we've been wanting to play for a long time, the Concerto for Violin by Rodolfo Halfter.
Ooh.
Which is a rarity. It's rare that it's heard in this country.
I don't know it.
And, it's a great piece. It's a great piece. Manuel gave me the score. I read through it, and I said, this is fantastic. We have to have it. And we were planning on doing that. But, of course, his concert schedule now is just so busy. And he says, well, I have a major appearance the week after your concert and a major appearance with a different concerto the week before, 2 weeks before. So rather than have a third piece, and I said, well, what are you doing? And when he said the Brahms double, I said, we must have it. We must have it.
That is neat. So that's how the whole thing came about.
That's how that was in the final negotiations, yes. But it's not a negotiation. It's kind of like the final wish list fulfillment.
There we
what
go.
It is.
There we are. Everybody's wish list, everybody checks off one of their bucket list wishes, right?
I'm hoping that with time we can bring that the Halfter Concerto, because it's such a great piece written by a Hispanic guy who came to live in Mexico City. So he composed a piece between Spain. I think he wrote the first movement in Spain, and then he ended the piece, the other two movements in Mexico City. So it has flavors of both places. It's an amazing piece, and hopefully we can bring it the next time.
Oh, I think that'd be great.
Oh, yes. Now you know why we love to have Manuel come back as often as he's able.
Absolutely. Well, and he's also a nice guy,
That's the truth.
Well, and also I am from St. Louis,
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I'm a St. Louisian, after living here for 38 years. So
yeah, you drank enough water that you can qualify now as a St. Louis.
Right. That's right.
Well, it's just great to have you here in town again, and to have you here in the studio, too. Now, I'm going to turn to Leon here for a moment. I know that the U City Orchestra has always been referred to as that adventurous orchestra.
Oh, yes.
Because it's always something going on. And your season theme is Be Our Guest. And this is what number season?
Oh, my goodness.
59?
59, I believe.
You've got to really pull out the stops next year, fella.
Well, maybe pulling out the stops means having Manuel back, probably.
There you go. There you go. And you'll be playing organ, right? No. That would be just wonderful.
Yeah, I'm planning
to the
that.
Hafta.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm planning now. It might be a little bit too soon for the Hafta, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We will.
Well, now the upcoming concert, which is going to be the 13th at the 560 Music Building at what time? 3 p.m., I believe?
3 p.m. concert.
Yeah.
Come early and hear my pre-concert talk at 2:15.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And he's always got something entertaining and enlightening to say in those talks, too. The name of this concert is Family Ties. Well, obviously, with the two Ramos brothers here. So we've got that going. And what else is on the program? Tell us about this.
Well, I'll tell you that the first piece is called Citas Inocentes, Innocent Meetings, by Josefina Benedetti. And she is a Venezuelan composer, a woman whom I have not met, but friends of mine do know her and were saying, oh, this is a wonderful piece, you should do it. And I looked at it and decided I'd do it. People might not realize this. I was guest conducting in Venezuela the first few days of February this year. And so I feel this real friendship and solidarity with my Venezuelan musician friends.
Yes.
I did the Tchaikovsky Second Symphony and the Third Lenore Overture of Beethoven with them. And wonderful orchestra, wonderful people. And I just really feel for them with their economy and the shape that it is. I know in the 5 days I was there, all the prices rose 50% in 5 days. It was just incredible. So this is like a shout out to them saying, I see you, I feel for you, and I will not forget you. So I want to have a Venezuelan piece to start the season. But then the Petite Suite d'Orchestre. But I got it because it's called Jeux d'Enfants, childhood games.
Yes.
And I was just thinking, oh, if I'm going to have two brothers, I'm sure they played some childhood games on each other.
Probably so, as long as they don't do it on stage, right?
Oh, no. If so, it'll happen during the music. It'll be fun.
And everybody will love it.
That's really the truth. And then to do something really difficult like the Brahms. Brahms is never easy for an orchestra.
No.
And I don't know about people, if they understand playing chamber music. You play with someone who's wonderful, and it raises your game. Or like, say, I used to be a chess player, and when I'd play someone who was really ranked, my game would come up because you're playing with someone of the highest level. And whenever we have Manuel and now Adolfo with us, we have artists of that high level, and it raises the orchestra's game. It really does. And I could not be happier, because the Brahms double is one of my favorite pieces in the whole wide world. And I've known and loved it for many decades. And so now to be doing it with friends in a nice situation, it's wonderful.
Oh, that's great. You know, you said something a minute ago as you were talking about the Brahms. You said Brahms is never easy for an orchestra.
Oh,
Elaborate on that. Any one of you could do that, actually.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know. Well, I'll let them talk about from the inside out. But it's very difficult to describe the Brahms sound. It's always round and luscious. And yet it has to have some drama in it. I see most of Brahms' career, his music is fueled by his soulmate, Clara Schumann, who he can never have. But to have someone, and when you listen to Clara Schumann's works, it sounds so much like Brahms. So you know they're two kindred spirits. And so the frustration of never being able to have her for more than a friend, I imagine, drives a lot of Brahms's angst, for lack of a better word. And so it always has to be full of love and round, but it has to be dramatic. And so I was telling the orchestra last night, I said, cantabile, ma marcato. Yeah. In other words, really well etched, but it must always sing.
Yeah, it's true.
Big sound. So what's it like playing Brahms?
Well, the thing about the Brahms double is that it has a lot of interaction between the soloist and the orchestra, and it's almost like playing chamber music with them. You know, because there's a lot of things going and giving and taking, and listen to the orchestra, and they're repeating the same themes and all of that. So it's that kind of thing with Brahms, you know, like all those things that Leon is talking about. And so, and within the violin and cello is the same thing.
Yeah,
we always play with each other,
but then you're
and
also
then we interact with the whole orchestra, repeating the same themes and things like that.
Well, there's a lovely thickness too in Brahms. You know, it's that there again, that round, warm sound, and it's just it has to be one of the most gratifying duets, duet concertos, double concertos to ever play. Yeah, would you go along with that, Alfonso? Adolfo, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
I was writing a script last night, and it had a main character by the name of Alfonso. I apologize.
Don't worry about it. It's happened
I have
to me
Alfonso right here.
all my life.
Poor Adolfo.
Don't worry about it. That's fine. There's Brahms writing for strings. And I just confirmed it with a pianist. I was talking to a pianist the other day. Then within all the beauty and all the singing, the writing technically is not friendly at all. It's very awkward and uncomfortable and in all ways, you know, and you still have to play it as if it was just lyric and beautiful. And I thought that was because he was a pianist and writing for strings, well, he probably had that thing, you know. But then talking to a pianist, and he just told me, well, it's exactly the same thing for piano.
Interesting.
You know, it's like very awkward, very difficult, though it has to be beautiful in singing and lyric and everything. Well, that's just his spirit, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And who knows, maybe it's sort of unconsciously is that all the difficulties he encountered with his personal life. Who knows?
Right.
But there is a richness and a lushness in Brahms.
Yes,
absolutely.
of course. Every note, every
sumptuous.
moment.
Sumptuous would be a good word.
It's de rigueur to refer to music, in culinary terms. And I would call Brahms death by chocolate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go.
So the thing about his writing and the whole history of his relationship with Joachim, who he wrote this piece to. At first, Brahms would go to Joachim to present the music and ask for insight about the music, about what to do, because they knew everything about technically the violin was Joachim. And then he would revise the piece, and then comes to Brahms, and then he would say, I think you should make this change in here because the fingering doesn't quite go with whatever. And then Brahms would listen to him. Yes. But then at the end, he would say, I think I'm going to leave it just as it is. And so even though he was telling him,
appreciate your opinion, but forget it.
Right.
Stubborn guy.
And so it is awkward the way he writes sometimes, things that fingerings, the stretching really and all of that. But in the end, once you come along with those difficulties, and practicing has a lot to do with that, then marvelous things happen.
Well, as Adolfo was saying a moment ago, too, it's awkward, but you need to make it sing. And really, that's where your mastery of your instrument and also of your technique and all of that comes into play, and your musical soul.
Right.
Which there again, I guess maybe that challenge brings out more in us playing up to the game, right? It's really
definitely
neat. Tell us a little bit about your background. Adolfo, we'll start with you.
I went to school in Mexico, the National Conservatory, and then I came here to St. Louis, 1987, to study at CASA, what used to be the Conservatory, School for the Arts, St. Louis Conservatory. I did 2 years there, and for some reason, economical reason, a couple of years after I left, it folded.
Yeah, it's because you left. No.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was a wonderful little school, and
it was
really high level.
It truly was,
and it was a pity to see it. To see it go. And then I went to Indiana University for another 2 years. Then I went back to Mexico, and I was a member of the National Symphony Orchestra, with which we're going to play next week. This Brahms Staffel. And I took a scholarship from there to study 2 more years in France, in the south of France.
Wow.
Little town called Perpignan, which is near the border with Spain.
Oh, my.
Then I went back to Mexico. I played a total of 12 years with the National Symphony. And then I went on to a group called Concertistas de Bellas Artes, which is a group of concert players with that institution. And then I took the position of principal cellist with the Mexico City Philharmonic.
Bravo.
With whom I've been playing for the last 15 years.
Bravo. Bravo.
Thank you.
Is there one mentor or one instance of watershed moment in your life when you realized this is what I am about, playing music?
Probably from the moment I was born. My father was a musician. He was a saxophone player. He played the violin. He played the guitar. He played the bass. He was a wonderful musician. And by the time I was born, I had already 5 violinists, five brothers who played the violin. One of them played the trumpet. And
they needed some bottom in there.
Yeah, I had music all over the place since the moment I was born. Brothers, my father practicing one room and another one actually in the bathroom, because there was no more space, and he'd be practicing there,
Yeah.
And I'd be sleeping.
He was truly steeped in it.
Yeah, so there was never a doubt in my mind that that was my way in life.
I love it.
Never thought of anything else.
I love it. I love it. Thanks, Adolfo.
My pleasure.
And you, Manuel, was there any time, like when you were a young man, you said, okay, this is it. This is what I'm made of, or maybe a mentor that put your feet on that path?
When people ask me about, what about the violin? When did you start? Whatever. My only answer is, it almost seems like I was born with a violin in my hands.
I feel that way as a singer.
So,
yeah.
Since the very beginning, I knew I had to play the violin. My older brother, the first one that was taught by my father, when he was practicing and all of that, I learned tremendous stuff from just looking at him. So by the time I grew up or something and took up the violin, I went so fast and he was frustrated. I had the advantage of having seen him learning.
Sure.
And so by the time I came, I just came through and so he was a little frustrated, so he took up the trumpet. He's a great trumpet player, but he's also a great fiddle player at the same time. So actually the winner was him. The only thing I know how to do is to play the violin. He plays the trumpet amazing, the guitar also amazing,
wow.
and violin and bass, and he does everything.
My goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So,
As you're talking about this, both of you, and Leon, you and I have had this discussion before. One of the most important things you guys learned as little bitty guys, little bitty kids, was how to practice. And learning how to practice is huge. It sounds like such a silly thing to say unless you're a musician. You know exactly what
Right.
I'm talking about.
correct.
How to go right into the meat of, wait a minute, this is not coming out the way I want it to be. And then you go back to those elements. What is it I need to correct here? What can I do better? And you learn that from him so early on that's absolutely feeds into why you are such superb musicians.
Right.
And I'm sure that's one of the first things you teach your students too, how to
Yeah.
practice. I know you do.
Oh, I
Leon.
do.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Leon, you're a pianist, and you had a wonderful background too.
Well, a few things. I was a pianist and organist, and I had to learn how to prepare things, and it backfired on my organ teacher, who said, "You're taking too many lessons." I was in high school. I was I think I had 6 lessons a week.
Holy cow.
Composition, conducting, piano lessons, organ lessons, flute lessons. I was doing way too much, and I was always complaining. I said, "You always give me this hard stuff to play. I get learned in the nick of time. It's making me nervous. And so give me something I can already play." She said, "If you want to play something that you can already play, why don't you write it yourself?" Well, all right, I will.
Good for you.
So I was one of those kind of guys. But you have to learn how to practice, because the pressure and demand of, especially nowadays, I'm a church organist again at First Congregational Church of Webster Groves.
And they're lucky to have you.
Oh, but now I'm practicing. I have 2 or 3 pieces to do new every Sunday.
You know how to get to the meat of it, though, very quickly.
Yes, I have to.
Yes, you do. Necessity has a way of teaching you how to practice.
Amen.
That's the downside of it.
That's right. Well, everybody just come to the U City Symphony Orchestra Family Ties concert, and you'll have the opportunity to also hear Leon do a talk before the 3 o'clock concert. At 2:15, he does his pre-concert talk, and then at 3 o'clock is the downbeat. This is in the 560 building at Trinity, and have you been in there lately, Manuel?
I did a
had rehearsal
Paganini
last
concerto
night, of
like a
course.
couple of years ago.
And they have those new lucite
Beautiful,
clouds.
beautiful
It's
place,
just
yeah.
gorgeous. It was already in a fairly nice acoustic, but it has just been tuned to perfection. And this is October 13th. That's Sunday, 3 p.m. And let's see. Family Ties is the name of it, and you'll be able to hear Josefina Benedetti, which sounds actually Italian, but not.
does.
She's Venezuelan. And then Georges Bizet's Petite Suite. And Citas Innocentes is the Benedetti piece. And then, ta-da, that glorious, sumptuous double dip in chocolate. What was Death by Double Chocolate or something?
Yes.
Double concerto in A minor by Brahms with Manuel and Adolfo Ramos. And, of course, all held together by that fellow on the podium with the stick in his hand, Leon.
My strategy is to just get out of their way and let them play, because that's what they do so beautifully.
I love it.